Level 1, the purchase. The smell hits you first, leather and newness, and something faintly chemical underneath it. Something that smells oddly like ambition. You are sitting in the driver's seat of a 2024 Camaro SS. The salesman has stepped away to run the numbers, which both of you understand means the deal is already done. You are 25. You have a job that pays real money for the first time. Not life-changing money, but money with commas in it. And commas feel like oxygen. The seat wraps around you like it was built for exactly your body. Outside, the dealership lot glitters in the afternoon sun, all chrome and optimism. Inside his folder is a number, 947 in a month, 60 months, 7% APR. He says the payment like a fact of nature, like weather, unavoidable. Here's what nobody tells you about that feeling. It has an expiration date, and the billing cycle starts immediately. Level 2, the show. You pulled into Marcus' driveway, and the energy shifted when something shiny entered the room. 3 people walked outside to look at it. Even your father puts his hand flat on the hood and says, "Nice machine, son." You mistake all of this for respect, but admiration and respect are 2 different currencies. And Level 3, the crack. Month 4, the payment comes out. $947 disappears quietly without drama, the way slow damage always works. But $947 is not what a car costs. Insurance is $310. Gas for a V8 is $190. Maintenance is $80. Add it all up. That's $1,527 on a month. Over $18,000 a year. The world gets a little narrower. You stop eating out. You push back a trip. You tell yourself this is temporary. But fine is exactly how the water gets warm before it boils. Level 4. The math. You are 27. The car is beautiful, but something else has happened. Your friend Devin just put a down payment on a house. Devin drives a 6-year-old Civic with a crack in the dash. He made within $9,000 of you, but he was putting away $1,200 a month into an index fund that nobody ever asked him about. While your car lost 20% of its value in the first year alone, $9,600 of evaporation, $12,000 a year in real costs compounded over 5 years is $73,000. That's not a fantasy, that's a down payment. Level 5, the wait. Month 31. You sit in the car in a dark parking garage at midnight and you don't go upstairs. Just you in the dark with a thing you bought to feel like someone. You did the real math tonight. In 31 months, you've paid $29,357 toward this car. It's worth $27,400 and you still owe $27,000. Your net position? Practically zero. You are 1 transmission failure, 1 medical bill, or 1 layoff away from becoming a statistic. You're behind on a timeline you didn't even know existed. Level 6, the letting go. You sell it on a Wednesday. A man named Robert drives it around the corner and out of your life. You feel a grief that surprises you. After 31 months of payments, insurance, and repairs, everything you walk away with $4,200. That is the total yield of 3 years of performance. 2 weeks later, driving a used Honda Accord that costs $280 a month, you feel something unexpected. Lighter. Not vindicated, just finally free of the weight. You are 30 now. Devin's house has a yard. You stand there holding a beer and feel something complicated. Pride for him, and a complete understanding of what that car actually cost you. It wasn't just the $73,000. It was time. 5 years of financial adolescence. The years between 25 and 30 are the most expensive years you have because they cost you the future. Ego-driven decisions feel like self-respect, but they are just performances. You didn't need a better car. You needed a better question. Subscribe so you don't miss the next lesson. At 30, you understand something that was impossible at 25. There is a fundamental difference between buying something that reflects who you are and buying something to announce who you want to be. One is an expression, the other is a performance. One costs money, the other costs years. What you needed at 25 was not a sentence, it was a paragraph, a chapter. The patient, invisible construction of something that grows in silence and does not require an audience to be real. Legitimacy and dignity don't live in a car. They live in the account you build when nobody is watching. The car told everyone where you wanted to go. The account you neglected told the truth about whether you'd ever get there. At 30, you're finally getting there. Slower, but in the right direction. The years between 25 and 30 are the most expensive years you have. Not because of what you spend, but because of the compound interest you lose forever. You aren't just buying a car, you're selling your freedom. You think about your 25-year-old self in that driver's seat, sun on the chrome, and you don't want to shame him. You just wish someone had climbed into the passenger seat and said, "The thing you're looking for is real, you're just looking in the wrong place." Legitimacy lives in the decision you make at midnight with a calculator and no audience. Level 7, the truth. Options are the only game that matters. But ego-driven decisions don't feel like ego at the time. They feel like a reward. They feel like self-respect. You think, I worked for this. I came from nothing. I finally get to have something beautiful. And that hunger to be seen, to step out of the smallness, is not a flaw. It is human. But the car never actually delivered that. It delivered a rented appearance of having arrived, while the actual arrival, the equity, the freedom, kept receding into a future that never quite came. You didn't need a better car. You needed a better question. Subscribe to Fincap Economics and let's start asking the question. Legitimacy is a quiet room. It's the version of yourself who chooses the future over the performance, consistently, without needing anyone to applaud. That is where the real wealth begins. Is a chapter. It is the patient construction of something that does not require an audience to be real. You are 30, and you are finally getting there. Slower, in a Honda, but with a brokerage account that is pointed in the right direction, because the destination was never the car. One is an expression, the other is a performance. One costs money, the other costs years. What you needed at 25 was not a sentence, it was a paragraph, a chapter. At 30, you understand that the performance of wealth is the enemy of actual wealth. The Honda in the driveway isn't a sign of failure, it's the engine of your future freedom. You didn't just sell a car. You bought back your time. You bought back the years that compound interest was supposed to build for you. And that is the most valuable asset you own. According to Edmunds, the $48,000 you finance will eventually be worth somewhere around $19,000. The loan won't care. $12,000 a year, the real annual cost of this car. Compounded over 5 years, that same $12,000 a year is $73,000. That isn't a fantasy number, that is a down payment. But the math gets worse, because Devon's $1,200 a month wasn't just sitting in a box, it was in an index fund. That down payment didn't just stay $73,000, it grew while your car died. You did the real math tonight. In 31 months, you've paid $29,357 toward this car. It's worth $27,000, and you still owe $27,000. Your net position on this asset is practically zero. You are one transmission failure, one medical bill, or one layoff away from becoming a statistic. You are behind on a timeline you didn't even know existed. Level 6, the letting go. You sell it on a Wednesday. A man named Robert drives it around the corner and out of your life. You feel a grief that surprises you, followed by a relief that feels like oxygen. After 31 months of payments, insurance, and repairs, everything, you walk away with $4,200. That is the total yield of 3 years of performance. 2 weeks later, you're driving a used Honda Accord. It costs $280 a month. You feel something you didn't expect. You feel lighter, not vindicated, just finally free. You are 30 now. Devon's house has a yard. You stand there holding a drink and you feel something complicated. You feel pride for him and a complete understanding of what that car actually cost you. Ego-driven decisions feel like self-respect, but they are just performances. You didn't need a better car. You needed a better question. Now we look at the math of the pivot. That $600 a month you saved by switching to the Accord doesn't go toward a lifestyle upgrade. It goes into the engine. An index fund is essentially a bet on the entire economy rather than a single company. It's boring, it's quiet, and over decades, it is the most reliable wealth builder ever created. While your car was losing 15% a year in that garage, the market was historically returning 7% to 10%. You were fighting a war on two fronts, and you were losing both. By age 35, that $600 a month, compounded, becomes the foundation of a life that isn't a performance. It becomes the option to say no. Compound interest is often called the eighth wonder of the world. It's not just interest on your principal, it's interest on your interest. It is a snowball that starts small and ends as an avalanche. The problem is that compounding requires the one thing most 25-year-olds refuse to give it: time. You cannot rush an avalanche. You can only stay out of its way and let it work. When you stop paying for a lifestyle you can't afford, you gain something more valuable than money. You gain the ability to look at your future without flinching. Most people spend their entire lives running from their bank statements. But once the car is gone and the index fund is growing, the statement stops being a threat. It becomes a scoreboard. You are no longer a consumer. You are an owner. You don't buy things to tell people who you are. You build things so you never have to explain yourself again. We look ahead now to the 5-year horizon. This is where the silence of your decisions at 25 becomes the thunder of your results at 30. The gap between you and the crowd is no longer a crack, it's a canyon. At 35, the math of your recovery hits its peak. That $600 a month, which once felt like a sacrifice, has now matured. It has been working for you every second of every day for 60 months. You are no longer fighting for air. You are the one who owns the oxygen. The better question you asked at 30 wasn't just about a car, it was about who owns your time for the next 40 years. The $73,000 you didn't spend on metal and leather has now doubled again. Not because you worked harder, but because you were disciplined enough to let the world work for you. Your peers are now entering their second midlife crisis, buying the next version of the performance. But you are buying the one thing money usually can't buy: silence. We return to the two paths. On one side, the man in the performance, still chasing the next upgrade to feel whole. On the other, the man in the silence, who owns his house, his time, and his peace. You are 35. You realize that your friends weren't buying cars, they were buying distractions from a life they didn't like. Because you chose the boring path at 25, you now have a life you don't need a distraction from. Legitimacy was never for sale at the dealership. It was earned in the 5 years you spent being invisible. You didn't just buy a car at 30, you bought your life back. The $48,000 car is long gone, worth nothing but scrap. But the index fund? It has become a fortress. It is the reason you don't have to check your bank account before you book a flight or help a friend. Step 1, sell the performance. Step 2, buy the index fund. Step 3, wait. It sounds simple because it is. The hardest part isn't the math, it's the ego. So how do you start? You stop looking at the monthly payment and start looking at the total cost of ownership. If the car costs more than your freedom, the price is too high. This is the better question answered. It wasn't how do I get the car? It was how do I make the world pay for the car while I keep my time? The $73,000 you built isn't just a down payment anymore. At an 8% average return, it's now a machine that generates $800 a year without you lifting a finger. It covers your insurance. It covers your repairs. It makes the car free. Every decision you make from here on out is either a brick for your fortress or a payment for someone else's. Choose the fortress. Choose the silence. Choose the better question. By the time you reach the 18-minute mark of this journey, you've already invested more in your mind than most people do in a year. That curiosity is your highest leverage asset. The transition from consumer to owner is a quiet revolution. It doesn't happen with a fanfare, it happens when you look at a $1,200 payment and decide it's worth more as a seed than as a status symbol. You have one life to build. Don't waste the most powerful years of your compounding journey making a dealership rich. Build the version of yourself that lasts. Level 17, the freedom margin. By now, the index fund isn't just a number on a screen. It has become a permanent no to toxic environments and high-stress traps. Let's talk about the safety margin. When your index fund hits a certain mass, it doesn't just pay for cars. It becomes a permanent no to toxic bosses and dead-end jobs. We often overestimate what we can do in 1 year, but we vastly underestimate what we can do in 10. At 14 minutes into this breakdown, you are already seeing the 10-year shadow of a 5-year choice. We are at the final level, level 18, the legacy. When you look back from the finish line, you realize the car was never the obstacle. The obstacle was the belief that you needed to prove your worth to people who weren't even watching. You have successfully traded 5 years of performance for 40 years of sovereignty. The math is finished. The choice was always yours. This is the invisible wealth phase. You don't look like the person with the $48,000 car anymore. You look like a person with options. And in this economy, options are the ultimate status symbol. Your index fund has reached its critical mass. It is now a self-sustaining ecosystem. It breathes while you sleep. It grows while you rest. It is the silent partner in every dream you have from this day forward. You didn't just save money. You saved yourself from a timeline of mediocrity. You chose the hard, better question at 25 so you could live the easy answer for the rest of your life. This has been Fincap Economics. You now have the blueprint. The math is done. The strategy is clear. The only thing left is the discipline to start. Subscribe to join our community of owners. Your future self is waiting.